Hey, gentlemen, happy sip day.
Hey,
What's up?
Important topic today, something that aren't on people's mind too often, but actually does happen to more people than and happens more often than we think. So I wanted to start with a little graph talking about disability facts and estimates of how many people actually get disabled and need disability insurance during their working years. So
Let's do it.
based on this little graphic, uh, about 1 in 4 people will become disabled during their working career. 1 in 4 seems like a lot. Whether that is true or not, that is what the data has spit out. But when we look at the top causes of long-term disability that people don't think about too much is musculoskeletal disorders, 29%, almost 30, cancer. We know that has become even more prevalent more recently in younger individuals, mental illness, and physical injury. Anything jump out to you, gentlemen?
but it's a 75% chance I won't get disabled.
That's correct.
All right, then.
Well, certainly that's one way of looking at it. The key part that I like to think about with this is I'm concerned with a long-term disability. And sometimes when I see this graph, I remember one time showing this to a client and they said, "Well, where are all these disabled people? You're telling me 25% of people are disabled. Where are they?" Right? Like I don't see that in my day to day. So I think it's like on one hand, it can be part of it during your life, right? So it could be a temporary period, right? That could be like a difficult pregnancy that
Mm-hmm.
would cause you to be disabled and not be able to work. So it's sort of a one-time thing that happens when you're 32 and then never occurs again, and then you would fall into this statistic. So sometimes I think this statistic is like a bit like not wrong, but not clear exactly what it's showing. But the part that I think is really important, the bottom of it, the causes of the long-term disability, Skylar's right. Like, hey, 75% chance it might not happen. But if it's a true long-term disability, so not a hard pregnancy, 9 months bedridden, afterwards, but then back to typical normal. I had a talking to a client the other day, very successful business, 29-year-old daughter diagnosed with MS. That means that person's working career is never effectively going to be the same. She was a nurse was her profession, or is her profession for now. And that to me is the importance of disability insurance is if I'm 29 years old, the most valuable asset I have is my brain and my ability to work. And if I lose that, I'm now a multi-decade financial problem for somebody else. My spouse, my siblings, my parents, the state that I live in. And disability insurance, I care about it for the long-term, multi-decade disability problem. I'm not as concerned if you can't work for 6 months, a year, 18 months. Everybody's circumstances are different. So you may not have a support network that could support that to protect that. But many people have loved ones in their life that could carry them through a short-term period, 6 months, 9 months, 18 months, 2 years of really bad time. But if we're talking multi-decade, that to me is where long-term disability insurance is a must.
Absolutely. And the important thing to think through is, well, how do I get long-term care insurance, or sorry, long-term disability insurance? And there's several ways to do it. The most common is group term policy, where you actually get that through your employer. That's the low-hanging fruit because if it's available to you, it's a no-brainer to sign up. Typically, it's usually very low cost, or if no cost to the employee at all, and typically it covers around 60% of your income. So that can be short term, like Joe was just talking about. We're not as concerned with short term disability because if that you can usually come off of short term, go back to work, or get another job in a similar field. Long term is the one that really has a long impact on your financial plan, the impact on your family, and what you can do with your future. So if you have that both short term and long term through group, absolutely sign up for that. But there's also points where if group policies might not cover enough, and that's where you can go out and acquire disability coverage privately. Skylar, can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I would say first of all, if you're comparing like changing jobs and one company offers group long-term care insurance or I'm sorry, long-term disability and the other one doesn't, go with the one that gives you long-term disability. Especially if the price point is similar in terms of what you're getting. Um, so group long-term care, definitely highly beneficial if your employer doesn't cover it, or if you're trying to get coverage above what is employer paid, you could go out onto the um, you know, into the disability insurance marketplace and purchase a policy on your own. You might be able to get, it's typically between like 60 or sometimes you see like 68% of whatever your salary is. There's options to be able to purchase additional coverages. They take a look at what work that you do and the likelihood that you might become disabled. They look at your health history. They look at what you do for fun. Um, so riding motorcycles and being a police officer is kind of harder to get uh, private disability insurance. But for those who are not being offered disability insurance through a group policy, buying an individual policy is really important. And there are some advantages of it as well. The policy coverages are typically better because you can elect your own occupation. So sometimes the group policies don't have an own occupation definition of disability. So if you can do something else, then it's not going to pay the claim. But own occupation says like, hey, if you can't do the occupation that you purchased this policy in, then we're gonna cover your claim to the benefit. And then the other cool part about the individual policies is that you pay the premiums after tax. And so the benefit, if it were to pay, is paid to you after tax, or without any tax withholdings needed. It's a tax-free benefit to you. So group coverage and an individual coverage, one group coverage, you don't pay the premium, the employer pays it. That's great. That's going to give you 60% of your salary, depending on the terms of the policy. But that's fully taxable. If you buy a policy on your own, it's tax-free benefit. So 60% of your salary tax-free, that might be 100% of your salary. So purchasing individually has some advantages in terms of tax benefit, um, and also just the language of the benefits can be a little bit better, but it's also a lot more expensive. Free versus $5,000 a year, some kind of a thing. But if you were comparing $100,000 salary, and if you got disabled and you weren't able to work for the rest of your life, uh, versus a $95,000 salary, but it gave you $60,000 if you became disabled and couldn't work for the rest of your life. What do you think's a better? What's a better proposition?
Good stuff. I think it's an important topic. It's often overlooked.
Very, very overlooked. Yes. But great talking with you on this topic, guys. And if you have any questions, clients as you watch this or individuals watching this, just feel free to reach out. Happy to talk more.
Thanks, guys.
I
Thanks,
see.
guys.